So, good afternoon and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today again on Wednesday, right? And today we are having a curatorial walkthrough of Not an Extra conducted by Shalu Yadav. So, the main aim for today's session is to move this conversation from exhibition to a discussion, right, where idea and research and questions will shape the formation of this whole thing, right? So, let's we'll begin with Shalu, and she'll take us through conceptual framework of the exhibition, the selection of the works, and the logic behind the sequences. And after this walkthrough, we'll open the discussion, right? And please, it's not a meeting, right? So feel free to barge in if you have any question. Again, we are a very small group today, right? So Not an Extra is an online exhibit started on April 15th, which was developed around the idea of visibility, positioning, and narrative framing within the contemporary artistic practice. Right? At its core, the exhibition asks how certain presences are constructed and how others are marginalized, right? And how curatorial structure itself shapes what is seen and what remains outside of visibility. Again, if I'm going too fast or if I'm going too slow, please let me know. And if anything is not making sense, please feel free to just let me know, right? So here, rather than treating the works as an isolated response to a theme, the exhibition positions them as a part of evolving curatorial inquiry, where each work does not only contribute to meaning but also reshapes the framework it exists within, right? In that sense, the exhibition is not fixed in interpretation. It is structured to remain open, reflective, and slightly unresolved, right? So in today's walkthrough, we'll begin with Shalu, as I said earlier, right? Presenting the curatorial direction and the rationale behind the exhibition structure. Following this, we'll move on to open discussion, and with that, I would like to invite Shalu
Hi,
and
thank you, Vikas. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. And because this session means a lot to us, and we curated this exhibition, so we want more and more people to see it and engage with it. So, before I begin, I want to start with something very simple. It's not a theory, not a concept, just an observation that I think most of us have had at some point. Uh, think about the last time you walked through a busy street. There must be people around you. They must be working, carrying things, building, cleaning, or moving through their day. They are part of how this city functions. Without them, nothing works. And yet, if I ask you right now to recall a face or any story, or even a single moment that you connected with them, I guess it is very difficult for all of us. And why is that? Because we don't really look at them. We just ignore and we just go through our days. We don't pay heed to them. And that is the question where not an extra begins. Not from what we see, but from what we fail to register. And I think that distinction matters more than it might seem at first. So today I want to walk you through this exhibition slowly, and not just through the works, but what we like, how we put our thoughts behind it, and how our artist put her thoughts behind all the works. So the questions and observation that shape this exhibition, and I guess hopefully by the end you will leave looking at things just a little differently. So I guess let's begin. So I want to be honest with you about something. Like, this project did not start with a fixed idea or a clear concept that was already mapped out. Like, we started with looking through Portia's portfolio, and as we did, one thing that kept standing out was the subjects in her works. They were people from everyday life. Like, and at first, we came across a series of works titled "The Extras of the World," and there was a sense of movement around them, a sense of transition and instability, which we can just feel by looking at all those works. So these works were made at the height of the global refugee crisis. So the extra series, it speaks for those who appear in the frame but never at its center. And Portia applies this metaphor to something far more urgent, where billions and millions of people are displaced by war, conflicts, and political instability going in this world. They appear briefly in news coverage, which we can see every day, but then they disappear in the background again, and we don't think about them or even mention them again. And all this thing, they it made us ask a much bigger question, like, what does it mean to live in a state of ongoing movement where you don't have a stability in your life, when you don't have a proper place, like where you are going to live, how you are going to survive, and how you are going to take care of your family. And this movement, it's not a choice but a condition, and it becomes a part of the daily existence of these people. And I guess from that question, the process, it became more layered for us. And we started reading and looking at reports and trying to understand migration and displacement, not through the headlines, but through the structures and more factful data, which can really back this up. So then we found something very striking during this when we were reading papers and reports. So during the 2020 lockdown in India alone, over 10 million migrant workers were affected. I mean, that's a huge number if we think about it now. And like these enormous number of people, they were forced to return to their villages. And since we all know that during lockdown, there were no services of train because the like crowds were not allowed, like crowding of people. So these people, when they don't have any vehicles or any public vehicles, by that they can just go back their homes. They started walking. They started going on bicycles, on foot entirely, and even UNHCR, yeah, that's the organization. It reported over 100 million displaced people at the same time, like all around the world, and it's the highest number that is recorded in the history. But during all this research, one observation that stayed with us was that many of these people were framed as carriers of that crisis rather than just people responding to it. So this decision to leave the cities was not entirely theirs, but it was shaped by the survival, because the conditions at that time were very dreadful. They could not work, so they were not getting wages, and they don't have anything to eat or any place to live. So this whole movement from cities to going back their homes, to rural part of India, so it becomes a part of the survival for them. And these are not abstract figures. They describe a condition that was widespread, ongoing, and I think it is still visible in our everyday lives if we look around us. And that's exactly where Portia's work come in. Because what she does is take these conditions and these people and make them feel real at a human scale. And I guess which brings me back to the title, like not an extra, like where it comes. from. So I think this whole explains it, like, and it completely aligns with the title, that's extras. Um, if we think, yeah,
Sorry, just let me know when do I need to share the screen.
okay,
Okay.
okay. So if we think about this title, not an extra, you must think how this work extra come from, because it's very common word which we use in everyday life, and how does it connect to people? Because people, if you think, they can't count as extras. But if we look in cinematic terms, an extra is someone who is always present but never central to the frame. They are necessary to the scenes. Without them, if they are shooting any street scene or market scene, if there is no crowd, if there are not extra people, it won't feel like that. Like if it is a market scene or a street, if it is empty. But they just pass by the cameras, but their stories are never told. And the camera just pass by them and it moves to the protagonist. And if we realize that this is not just a cinematic idea, it describes how certain lives exist in this world, like how certain group of people they remain as extras, just like in the cinematic context. So there is a large fraction of people who keep running our systems, who work in the background, who build our cities, who carries our economics forward, because they contribute to a major workforce in this country. So basically, they contribute to the economy itself, and but they still remain in the background of how we talk about society. They are present in every frame, essential to every system, and but they never become the subject of the stories. And I remember in our last session with Portia, she mentions about extras people, and she mentioned that these people belong to no countries. Like if any crisis happen, if they are leaving their territory and if they are going to another territory, they don't know what to do with these people, and they are just labeled as extras, where they don't belong to any specific place, and they just keep on hanging in between. uh, so this title points to her series. So, but most importantly, it names a way of looking at the people, at that certain section of people. So through this exhibition, we are attempting to shift that position just enough to ask, like, what happens if we start looking at them a bit differently? So yeah, I guess this is the main question we want to raise through this exhibition, to make people aware, to acknowledge it. We don't aim to bring a major change, just as Portia mentioned that she don't aim to bring a change like in a bigger picture, but she wants people, she wants a bit of disturbance in the mind of the people. And that's what I guess we are trying to do through this exhibition. Now I guess we should move to the works, and I guess Vikas, you
Yes,
start presenting now.
yes, sure. Just a second, and there we go. Is it visible?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think now my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So the artworks which you are looking right now are from the extra series titled "Extras of the World," which Portia created during the major refugee crisis which was going into the world. So if you look at these works, what do you think? What do you see?
Oh, okay, that's can I, if anyone wants to say anything, or can I? Yeah, Jose, would you like to say something? Or
Hi, sorry, I just pop in one moment. Um, for me, the first thing that my attention was draw is like the cuts, the thing that you see on the skins, but at the same time, the technique that it has been used to make like the sun on the beach on the third one, extra second, sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah,
you
sorry,
can
go
go,
on.
please. No, please go on.
Okay, let me say something. Okay, but I feel like because I have so many times I have seen these works individually, right? But having all these works in one frame, as Jose mentioned, scars are the first thing which you can feel. And like it's not just the scars of the body, right? Sometimes it's a scar of the surroundings itself, in terms of if we look at this extra 5, right? The cloth which this lady is wearing, it also has those scars, and right, it looks soft, but at the same time it's very, I don't know, you can feel it, right?
Yeah, I guess these images they evoke different things because I can relate, not relate, but the when I look at the extras second, like I was very small when this thing happened, not very small, but a teenager when these images were all over the media, like when this Syrian refugee crisis was happening. So when I look at that picture, it instantly makes me very emotional and sad at the same time. Like as I mentioned before, like when these people they leave one territory and they leave for another territory in a hope, but during that process of movement and displacement, there is a lot of certainty. Like they are running for survival, and during that period they sometimes pass away, and like this kid like very small, so it makes me sad every time I look at this artwork and I look at the original images. So yeah, these definitely show a lot of not just, they're not individual artworks, if I say. They talk about masses. Like in these artworks, we can see only one subject, but if we go more deeper, it is not talking about only one person. They are mentioning to the masses, like what people are facing, like millions of people are facing in the world. So these all works of the extra series, they were made around 2016 at the height of the global refugee crisis, where images of displaced people were circulating constantly on news channels, on social medias, and everywhere. But these images were fleeting. They appeared and disappeared, as I mentioned. They appeared for a time being, and then we just forgot about them and stopped talking about them. But like these crises, they keep on coming. Like one go, next one comes, and similarly the numbers. But what Portia does here is that she slows down. She holds the face in front of you and refuses to let it fix into settle into a fixed identity, because that is the condition she is examining. And people who exist, they are seen briefly, but they are not fully recognized. In one of the sessions, she mentioned herself that migrants from Syria and migrants from this country or any country, who are they? Do they have any name? Do they have any family or feelings? Because these things become secondary. They just stay as a number where they are just going to another territory for just a basic thing of surviving. So, but this series, it just brings all those feelings together, that it talks about what is their name, and it asks us to, like, it ignites curiosity within us to know the story behind all these images. So it refuses to let these feelings stay secondary. And if you look closely, these are like woodcut prints on paper. So first she engraved the works on plywood surface, and you can see the marks of carving into all these prints, and you can feel the physical effort that she put behind those works. So yeah, it took a lot of time and attention from the artist herself. So mm, let's move to the another artwork. Foot. Yeah, this particular artwork also belongs to the
Sorry, which one?
extra
This one?
series.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
one. It's Trump, and it's kind of satirical political comedy, which Portia tried to portray. So yeah, let's move to the another artwork. Foot tells 1,000 stories. Now we are moving to the next series of works. Here the focus shifts, and I want you to answer something before we look at this work. So when you think of 2020 lockdown in India or any country, how do you picture it? Like in India, I know how it looked. I have survived through that. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll say it was completely shut down. Everything was shut down, as everyone knows, right? And I believe it was people who were doing day-to-day things, right? They were the one who were the most affected ones. Like, okay, people who were working in office or they were having these desk jobs, right? So like I was having a desk job during pandemic, right? So it was like easy. Okay, take this laptop home, and today onwards it's work from home. So for me, nothing changed, right? Like, okay, instead of going out today onwards, I'll be sitting at home and doing everything. But yeah, I have seen people who were coming for like cleaning the roads, they stopped coming, right? Or people who were like house help, right? Who came for as a house help, they stopped coming. They and yeah, I think that's what make me think, okay, these things affected them the most than a lot of us. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Because I've seen it myself that during lockdown, I was in college. So for me, it is that I stopped going to college. I was just having my classes online, and I was just giving my exam. So for me, it was not a stagnant point. But for people who were coming from rural parts of India, from countryside, they had their jobs here, and their jobs were mostly outside and a lot of physical work. But since during lockdown, the gatherings, crowds were not allowed, and people were living in their own homes, so these jobs, the jobs they were doing, that stopped for time being, and they did not had their job, they lost their jobs, they did not get any wages. So, and if they are not getting any wages, there was no option for getting food. And also the living condition, they were very dreadful at that time. And not only that, but they were also seen as carriers of the disease. So yeah, they were kind of forced to leave the cities and go back to their homes, because that was the only rescue for them, to just go back to their places where they can just at least have something to eat. Because in villages they had this thing, because in cities survival is much more difficult. They need much more money to survive in the cities. So
Yeah,
yeah, that is my memory of lockdown.
yeah, and I remember there was this one incident I read somewhere that people who migrated from towns or cities to like a village, right, during pandemic, right? So the villagers stopped. They didn't welcome them. They were like,
Mhm.
as you said, the carrier of the disease, right? So they were like, you came from the city, and this disease is spreading in the city. So don't bring it to our homes anymore. So stay away from us. So in their own place, they were considered outsiders all of a sudden, rather than being like a place where they can feel the warmth and love, right? I don't know. It was, I just remember when you said this thing. Yeah. Anyone else would like to add anything? Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So maybe, yeah. So, and yeah, so I can add a bit more in this, because this is one of my favorite work Portia has. Like,
Mhm.
and seeing those cracks on the foot, on these, like, I don't know, it's because I have seen, so when I was young, I have seen those rickshaw pullers and those housemates, right? So because they wear slippers, right? So when our rickshaw puller is pedaling, right, I saw their foot, and their heels were super cracked, super dry feet, right? Like, it's like if someone gave them the moisturizer or something, it's like a blessing for their feet. I don't know whether it's the right thing to say or not, but yeah. And seeing these works, this particular work makes me relive those memories, right? Like, it's not in the past. I feel like it's still there. So I hope
Yeah,
it makes sense.
no, it does, because these all kind of images that resurfaced during the time, because we were just watching news at our home, sitting inside.
Yeah.
So, but these people, they were just struggling to move back to their homes, and there were no vehicles or the public transportation actually. So that was not very well functioning. There were limited number of trains and buses. So when there was no option, like, they were forced out of the cities, but they were not even provided the transportation. So they had no option. So they just started walking. And it was not just, the distance was not about few kilometers, but hundreds of. Some were going on bicycles, some were just walking with their families with few bags in their hands. So a lot of images were surfacing at that time. But yeah, it feels sad to see them. But yeah, I guess we also feel very helpless, because we can't really help them, because it was not just a small fraction of people, but a huge population. So yeah, these all books are somewhat inspired by those images. And if we see, like, these cracked heels, foot, they were the main focus point, because they were just telling the whole story of these people, where they were just walking bare feet on hot roads. Like, at the distance, it can be really seen on their foot. So yeah, even some photographs where there were blood-soaked slippers were left on lying on the roads, like people left them behind while walking. So yeah, these kinds of images were surfacing. I guess these inspired Portia to portray this, and she could not look away from these, because she thinks if the slipper can tell us so much, then I think this foot can also tell the stories of the road it has traveled and what it has faced. Because we don't really know what these people faced. They so yeah, these feet are like the proof, and they are the protagonist of these works. So yeah, so as Portia herself explains that the face was already invisible. Like, even I mentioned before, these people, they were just uh, shown as data and statistics. So their face were already invisible, and they already reduced to statistics. But like, these records, they can never capture the stories of these people, or the physical exertion, or the pain these people felt in their every single step. So this food particularly holds so much memories and so much stories for these people. And if you look at the surface, these carved lines are very dense and repetitive. Like there are no space left, and these are visual marks. And they don't just normal visual marks, but they hold stories of like survival for these people. So this one work I like it really. So now there is one more work which is inspired by the lockdown and the stories of the migrant laborers who came to the cities. So this particular work, Home is Where I Prefer to Die. I think this whole story, it is very emotional. Like when there was no rescue in the cities, people were moving back to their homes, to the people whom they can call family, whom they can call home. Just like even if they die, they can just die in peace with their people. So yeah, but this title itself feels contradictory because home is a place we often associate with safety, warmth, and belonging. But here, these people, they were willing to risk everything to reach their homes. And this works came specifically from the event from a lockdown, where a group of migrant workers, they were walking from Mumbai back to Madhya Pradesh, their homes. And since, as I mentioned, there was no public transportation, so no trains were running. So they were walking on the railway tracks, feeling it as a safe way. So, and after the long journeys in the scorching sun, they were exhausted and they had no place to rest. So they just rested on the tracks, railway tracks, to eat and sleep. But the passenger trains were not working, but the goods train, like transporting the goods from one place to another, they were running, and they did not knew that. So that train passed through them while they were just sleeping. So a lot of people died during this incident. And while they were just walking towards comfort, and like they were running for their survival, but they could not survive that. So yeah, this particular artworks really make me sad every time I look at it. And this feeling of home, like as Portia mentions, that they want to be with their people where they can embrace their fate with, to have a feeling of warmth and belonging, which they don't get in the cities. So they were just walking towards their people. That's all they were just trying to do. And yeah, during that time, it happened, all of these things. So yeah,
Yeah,
mm,
can I
yeah,
add
yeah,
something?
sure.
Sorry to interrupt. I
No.
remember our conversation with Portia in last session, right? And she specifically mentioned this incident and added that these red lines, these lines on the artwork, right? They are those marks of those railway tracks and how train passed and how their body was cut into 4 or 5 pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just it's there. It cannot be unseen. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I want to add.
that's what I was looking when I was thinking when I was looking at this particular artwork. Like this for me, the feeling of home. Like I'm living in the metropolitan city in Delhi from past, I guess, 18 years. I have spent my childhood, my teenage years there. But the feeling of home when I come back to the countryside, to my native place, this feeling is very different, which I don't get in the cities because I feel they are not my people. Here is my whole family, my extended family life. So this feeling of homes, it just makes you do a lot of things. So yeah, I can much really relate to them in that sense that they were just going back to their people. So yeah, this feeling of home, like, homesickness, I feel sometimes when I live in the city. Now let's move to the next one. She resists. So far, like we have been looking at the works which have been following movement or talking about displacement, people leaving traveling or trying to reach somewhere. Their body is in motion and they are under a lot of pressure, outside pressure, where they are just forced out, forced to migrate. But this particular artwork, it does the opposite. Here, the figure is not going anywhere, but she is just trying to push the boundaries, trying to hold the ground, and acting, her body is acting in refusal. So, this particular artwork is inspired by a tribal song um, that speaks of not letting go of the land, of the homeland, not letting go of the mother, or a feeling of resistance. So that particular song, where this particular song this became a memory for Portia, and it depicts somehow in a woman figure where she is protecting what is hers with everything she has. And Portia has spoken about how deeply she identifies with this figure. Uh, she mentions that as a woman moving through public space in northern India, she understands what it means for the presence of your body to feel like at risk. Because uh, the the mere existence and the presence of the body in that particular space, it can cause danger to a woman, and I guess every woman can relate to it. So yeah, this work is important because it reminds us that not all kind of resistance is about moving the survival. Sometimes it is refusing to move and just staying, the act of refusal to move, to refuse to give their land and refusing to disappear. So this particular artworks is very powerful in that sense, where uh, these tribal communities, they are not ready to leave their places and they are just fighting for it. They are standing for it. So yeah, this is completely opposite of what we were discussing of all the books which we were saying before. Yeah. Let's move to the next work. So yeah, this particular work, Memoir de Grooming. So it's very personal to Portia, where she portrays herself and her daughter. She's braiding her hairs. So this does not directly connect to the theme of this exhibition, but it gives a feeling of home, a feeling that stays with you wherever you go. That the feeling which you take with yourself, and these kind of memories which you have with your loved ones, they help you survive and they are very precious, that they don't fade. So yeah, this particular work, it's engraved in wood, and yeah, it is inspired by another artist. I can't recall the name. Portia mentioned that. So yeah, these artwork, it carries a warmth of a very everyday activity which a mother-daughter pair is having, and where this bond is giving us a sense of belonging, a sense of warmth. After all the works which we saw like before, they were full of sadness and pain, but this particular artwork, it is full of warmth, love. So it is very much in contrast, but somehow related to it. So this exhibition itself is concerned with displacement and ruthlessness, but this work, it offers a still point, and it reminds us that what people carry with them when they move is not only material, they carry memories with themselves. And what matters is the memory, touch, and of a feeling of your loved ones when you go somewhere. So yeah, all of these works, on the surface, they have very different subjects, but they are connected by a single underlying condition: the experience of living a life that is always on the edge of being unseen. whether it is refugees crossing borders, or the migrants walking home through the night, or the women refusing to give up her land. The question beneath all is going to remain the same. Like, what does it mean to be present in every frame and never becomes its subject? So, and I think the reason this exhibition feels so urgent right now is that it is not describing any like something that has happened like in present times, but somehow it describes the things which are happening in our surroundings all the times. It is not something about any particular incident like pointing it out, but these things are happening all around us, like in the current times as well. So yeah, this exhibition is an effort to make us look and acknowledge the people who are around us and what they are facing really, because we have the privilege. So yeah, we are just looking at their lives from very far and we are just listening to their stories. But now we are just getting a chance to know their stories very intimately through these works. So, yeah, so I guess, and one more thing, when we were having discussion with Portia, like when we asked whether the continued relevance of her works validates her practice or if that frustrates her. And she replies that both. And I think that is the most honest answer an artist can give. Like a relevance of the artwork, it somehow makes an artwork immortal, but when that particular artwork is reflecting the realities of a society of the world, and it if it feels relevant in the present time also, it frustrates you because the reality is not changing. And we want us to change because we want the lives of the people to be better, but that's the reality. We can change it. So we want this exhibition to stay with you in the same way. We want it changes something in you, that if you move in the busy streets, you notice lives around you, not just people who are on the same level as you, but the people who are the major workforce of the country. So either that person can be like, if we're just going to our office in the morning, we see people sweeping on the roads. They are just cleaning the roads for us. So we can't ignore their lives. So they also carry a story with themselves. So yeah, that's what we want to are trying to do through this exhibition.
Thank you. Thank you, Shalu. Thank you for this insightful walkthrough and for situating the exhibition within its conceptual and material framework, I'll say. Right. Before we move for before we move forward to specific questions, if anyone has any, I'm curious to know if anyone would like to share their immediate impression on the work or theme. Feel free to put things in chat or feel free to just say, right? Right, because I feel like that's very important to understand what you felt when you saw the work, right? For me personally, if you don't mind me saying, for me
No.
personally, I have seen it so many times, but every time I see, it's something new comes up, right? Every time I see, there's this, I don't know, somehow, somewhere deep in my mind, these old emotions start digging up, like, oh, yeah, I can see this. Yeah, so, yeah, so anyone, Jose, would you like to say anything?
I have to say that now I'm most curious of seeing the artwork in person because I did want to see like the technique, you know, because one thing is like when you see it in an image, but it's like when you can actually see the brushes that the artist made. Because when we were watching, when you put them together and everything, I was like thinking, oh my God, I really want to see this in person just to be close to appreciate the technique.
True, yeah, that's true. Nothing can beat artwork when you see them in person. That's so true.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think like the good thing about online is like, for example, this, we are in different places of the world, but we can actually be talking right now, like if we were like together in the same room. So it's like, well, I might not be able to see the artwork in person, but I'm able to see it, which is like already something that I'm very grateful for.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. But Artlune will make sure that you'll see these artworks in person. Don't worry about it.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, I'll make sure of that. Don't worry. Yeah. Okay, so I have a question for Shalu and Jose. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. I have just one question, to be honest, right now. Like, because Shalu, you used a very interesting word. I wrote it somewhere. So yeah, called carrier of crisis, right? So
Mhm.
could you please elaborate that word a bit more?
Um, Actually, when these people they're on, like, they live in groups. They are migrant laborers. They can't afford like private homes for themselves, so they live in groups. And since they work outside, they have contact with a lot of people outside, and a lot of physical activities is included in their works, and they have to travel to places to finish their works. So since they come in contact with lot of people, so the chances of them carrying that infection of COVID-19, that, I mean, that percentage was higher. So then they were just being seen as danger by everyone. Like, even if people needed help from them, they were not just asking them, because they know that they're coming from outside and they might be carrying the infection. So these all people who were at once, who were helping us to carrying out, and they were helping us to smoothen the works that is happening in the cities itself, like those. We can't do the work by ourselves. They are basically the runners of the system. So at that time, they were just seen as a threat, like they might be the carrier. So they were just, since there was no work, and they don't had the wages, and they were just seen as threats. So they had to leave. They were kind of forced to leave the cities and just go back to their homes for the time being, because they don't had any other option. So yeah, they were just seen as threats and carriers of that particular infection. So that's what I mean at that place.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah, that's true because they are the first. They were the first one who will get in contact with this disease. That's true. Okay, and you used a lot of time. You refer them as a third person in your walkthrough, right? So is it are you directing this to a thought that exhibition itself talks about them as a third person, or it's just how society perceive them as a third person?
No, if we are just posing them as third person, we won't be curating this exhibition. We want them to come in front. We want people to know their stories. And we want people to acknowledge their existence, and that they are much important as us. Like, we are the other class of the society, and they are the working class, like the migrant laborers. So yeah, I mean, that's not what I mean when I mention them as third person, but uh, it's the, like, how the society looks at them. And we are just trying, because the main motive of this exhibition is that, like, these people, they live on the margins. They are like a backbone of this country, and they contribute to the economy itself, but still they are just ignored and not being acknowledged. So if this particular exhibition is an effort to bring them to, like, kind of mainstream, like what Portia is trying to do, like bring the lives of these people to mainstream, so that people can look at them. So yeah, that was not like what I want to say them, but like how society looks at them.
That totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. Yeah. So, and Jose, do you have any questions? Otherwise, I'll move to next one.
I was going to ask you, like, what do you expect for people to get the idea after seeing the exhibition? But I think you already answered, like, facing realities that people don't normally, like, they think about it and they overlook of them.
Yeah, I mean that's the major thing we want people to take away from this exhibition, that what we if we are overlooking something, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It exists beneath the surface, and like if we are doing the same thing what the government is doing, like keeping them as only the statistics, so how they are going to appear in the mainstream. So this is an effort, like we want people to acknowledge this fact that these people exist. So yeah, I mean, like we only if only a few people try to bring them to mainstream, it is not going to work. So projects and exhibition like this, if they work and if more and more people engage with it, if they look at these works, they will feel it, like what we are trying to convey and what our artist is trying to convey through these works. Yeah.
Fair enough. So I have one more question. So, what is that one unsolved question this exhibition initially leaves open,
Mm,
if there is any?
I guess it doesn't really any unresolved question, but it's on the people, like how they take it as, and how they look at these people. It's their choice and it's their perception how they look at them, because the artworks, they are pretty much very powerful, like in what they are trying to showcase. And as I mentioned, that one particular artwork, it brings back the memory when these pictures were surfacing of very small boy who was like lying on the seashore. So yeah, I mean, it can ignite different feelings in different people. Like some can recall some memories of their loved ones, maybe, or like yeah, some people can have people in their families who have faced this very first thing. So yeah, it can be different from for every person. Yeah, but I don't think it has any unresolved question, but the unresolved thing in itself is this particular section of people if we fail to recognize them. So that's the main aim for this project.
Nice. I say nicely said. Yeah. Okay. So because we are almost towards the end of the session, right? So I would like to thank you everyone for joining us today. Wait, let me add again as just a second. Let me add this link in our chat for people to have feedback form. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today and being part of the journey of Not an Extra. So if you haven't watched this exhibition, please visit our website and see the show. Right. The exhibition is on view till 15th of May 2026, and we would like you to request please fill our feedback form. Right, as this will help us in improving our sessions and what we can offer to you guys. The link we'll add it in description section. Plus, I have added in a chat. Right, so please feel free to give us your feedbacks. Right, we love critical feedbacks because that's what makes us think and work harder. Right. So and we'll see you all next week Saturday for our Instagram live session. And if you want to know more about the events and programs, I would highly recommend you to sign up for our newsletters. And looking forward to see you all next week for Instagram Live. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Thank you.